Hey everybody, welcome back to the Member Experience Advantage. I'm Joy Duling with the Joy Membership, and I am so glad that you are here to spend just a few minutes with me talking about something that's really important in membership growth and engagement in this pandemic period. This period of time when we are all kind of adjusting to this idea of coronavirus and shelter in place and all of those things that have had a serious impact on the way that we take care of our audiences and the way that we serve our members. So I thought today I wanted to talk about four types of responses that I am seeing across my clients who are trying to make adjustments to how they serve members during this time when things are really different. And I call these the 4Ps. And the 4Ps stand for pivot, power up, prune, and preserve. And organizations are doing one or more of these four different responses. So let's talk about each of them separately. The first one that most people would recognize is the pivot. And in a pivot, that's where you look at what you're doing and you say, oh, this is not going to work at all. We are going to have to do something very different. We're going to have to move in a different direction. So, as an example, one of my nonprofit clients, the Cochlear Implant Awareness Foundation, runs a couple of retail boutiques that are the primary source of revenue for the foundation. And when the governor here in Illinois closed down businesses, non-essential businesses, all of a sudden the foundation was left with no revenue stream coming in. So that required a pivot. So the founder of the foundation immediately started thinking of other options that did not involve people coming into the retail establishment. And so we switched to virtual personal appointments and virtual trunk shows for groups. And those bookings have already started coming in. So that is an example of clearly a pivot. We can't go in the direction that we were originally going, and we are going to have to switch and do something else. So that is the one that most people think of. But the three others are options as well. So if you have not explored these three other options, now's the time to perhaps step back from what you're doing and think about if any of these might be a good fit for you. So the second one is the power up. The power up is a situation where an organization looks at what they've been doing and they say, okay, this thing that we've been doing, there's a lot of potential there. So we're going to really invest in that thing that's been working, and we are going to power up around that and kind of take the focus off of all of the other things that perhaps aren't going to work in this environment. And that's where we are investing. So a good example of this has been the National Foundation for Danish America. They had just kicked off their work at the beginning of this year. I think they launched right after Christmas, kind of between Christmas and New Year's. And they had already started to grow their email list. They had developed a national event calendar. So they had partner organizations that wanted their events listed on this national calendar. And they were very quickly becoming kind of the organization that could get these partnering organizations in front of the Danish American audience. So when this hit for them, it presented an opportunity to, leverage their position that was already kind of working. They already had all of these events on their national calendar. So all of a sudden they could be the entity that is, coordinating information about cancellations. They could get notifications out to their audience when, museums or festivals or the other opportunities that were happening for this audience. They could be the ones who helped communicate that out to, this audience that they all served. So as they looked at that, being able to power up around those relationships and the communication structures that they had put into place over the first 3 months of the year, that was a real opportunity for them. So that's what they've done. They've powered up their partnerships. They've powered up their event calendar because those were the things that were clearly working, and they could give it a real boost by emphasizing that. So the third P is prune. And prune is perhaps the thing that feels the most painful for an organization, because pruning means you let go of some things that perhaps you were truly invested in doing. Being forced to cut back on staff or being forced to cancel events is a very painful thing for an organization. And it can feel like you are sustaining some really significant losses. And indeed you are. But I call this pruning because, if you do any gardening, or if you have, fruit trees in your backyard, or, you're familiar at all with, arborists and what they do, pruning a tree is, what you have to do sometimes to encourage stronger growth. You prune it back so that the branches grow stronger, so that you get rid of dead weight, so that the flowers of the tree will come back stronger, or you'll get more fruit out of the tree in the years ahead. So pruning is often a necessity because it makes you stronger for what's ahead. And pruning is definitely a response that a lot of organizations have had to undertake in this uncertain period. And I probably don't even have to give you a lot of examples around this one, because if you just look around in the environment, you can see them. But one example from my team's work is, I have an association that puts on an annual event every year. It's a Wii bowling competition for seniors and folks who live in supportive living communities. And it is a really big deal in amongst their members. They've been doing it for more than a decade, and it was something that they've had to postpone for the foreseeable future just because of the public health implications. That is a pruning from this spring schedule that just absolutely was essential. Now, I believe that this event has been so important to their audience that when they are able to bring it back, they will find even more support for that event. And I think it will force the organization to think about, other ways to do it and how to get more people involved. And that pruning will end up being a very powerful thing for the Affordable Assisted Living Coalition. The fourth P that organizations can do as a response is to preserve. Now, preserve is kind of the opposite of prune. Preserve means that you preserve what's actually important, that you look at the overall suite of things that you are offering, and you keep some things exactly the same because they are working and they are deserving of protection in this uncertain time. So One of the clients that I work with, Synergy Solution Group, is a peer network in the HVAC industry. And for them, really supporting their members and helping their members make peer connections and, be able to kind of survive this storm in the market, in the industry, has always been a very important role for their members. And Synergy has very much kind of protected that role. They've seen that role that they're playing has been important, is important, and will be important in the future. So they are looking at, what are we doing on our website? What are we doing with our meetings? What are we, how do we continue to support this audience that we really care about and we want to see be successful? And I know there are countless organizations across the globe right now who are asking those same questions and looking to see, what elements of what we do need to be preserved. So those are the 4 P's: pivot, power up, prune, and preserve. So if you or your organization are kind of stuck in one response, it may be worthwhile to explore if one or more of the other 3 are actually viable for your organization and open up some other options for you. So that's what I wanted to share with you this week. I will see you next week, same time, same place.